Oh, and then Denver crushed Cincinnati. Cincinnati probably should trade everybody because they're terrible.
You know who the Niners should really be calling about?
Who's that?
That Chase guy. I hear he's pretty good.
Jamar Chase?
Yeah, they should trade for him.
Yeah, they could have had that guy, except they rather have Trey Lance, I believe, was the draft he was in.
How's that working out?
It didn't work out. Didn't work out too
damn.
well. Of course, we're brought to you by Pig at a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. We're also brought to you by Claw Daddy Arcades. He's a great follow on Instagram at Claw_Daddy_Arcades to find a location near you. We're brought to you by Sleeper as well, and we'll tell you more about Sleeper as we make our lineup in a minute or two. But, before we get there, let's talk a little bit about the 49ers and the issues that face them. And we'll start at quarterback, where Brock Purdy didn't play well. Really didn't play well. He wasn't like he was horrible, but the turnovers will kill you every single time. He made some plays, but he was too high on a number of key throws. And there was one throw that was too low, but the majority of, if you were trying to describe it to somebody, say, yeah, his release point was off. He was releasing it high. And it would be one thing if nobody could see it, but I said so throughout the week. I literally saw this in practice on a Wednesday and Thursday and was shouting it to the rooftops. Yeah. This guy's not ready. This guy's tender toe. Don't tell me that Mac's more hurt. I don't believe you, because guess what? I'm at practice and Mac hurt looks like Mac, but Brock hurt doesn't look like Brock. So you know what? They went with Brock. I think they put it in his lap and let him make the decision. They just said, our starting quarterback wants to go. Great, let's do it. Unfortunately, I don't think that was the right decision. And Brock woke up this morning and told Shanahan that his toe hurt worse, according to the reports. What does that mean for Thursday? That's kind of where we're at with that. And is there a right and a wrong move here for Kyle Shanahan? Dieter, I'm sure you have an opinion.
Cat's kind of out of the bag with Brock's toe now. I mean, I know after the game he said, it didn't affect me, except you watch the game and you know the information of he has a bad toe and you can't unsee it in everything. And so you're combining the fact of what you pointed out in practice. The guy just does not have the right footwork. It does not look like Brock Purdy when we're talking about footwork. He's sailing everything, a clear sign that he can't step through his throws. And then he was just slow and not reading things. And that's supposed to be his superpower, but he was tentative. He was delayed. He didn't trust it. And that's the more damning aspect for me, right? Because you can put a shot in the toe.
When you say slow, do you mean physically slow, or you mean he was processing slow? Or
I guess both.
I kind of thought he didn't get the ball out of his hand fast enough.
Totally.
He's gone from his rookie year, whatever was open, he just got it out of his hand, just distributor. Now he's hunting the big play to his own detriment.
I mean, I don't know if it's hunting the big play or he's waiting for his receivers who can't separate to maybe separate. Like, there is a little bit of give and take there. When Brock first came in, he had a super team around him. Teams hadn't figured out that you could just press the 49ers on the line of scrimmage and that would take out 3 of the 4 options available. So he didn't need to spend any time. He didn't need to scan the field. The first read was always open, the same way that it was for Jimmy Garoppolo until the games got big. And he was good enough and could process well enough that he could give you more than that, but he didn't have to. And then this past year, when the Deebo Samuel experiment went totally awry, and we saw the end of Deebo as a viable receiver for the San Francisco 49ers, because everyone took the Steve Spagnuolo game plan of just press him man-to-man, he can't win him. Well, when that happened, and now you don't have any other man beaters, save for Ricky Pearsall, who didn't come in until halfway through the season and who they didn't throw the ball to for another 4 or 5 weeks, even though he was open, because there wasn't that chemistry and development of trust yet. Like, that's, I think, why Brock spends more time. Perhaps it's because he's a bit too aggressive, because he wants it more. He is a deep shot taker, all that. I don't want him to not do that. I'm not going to chastise somebody for trying to make the big play. That's what wins games in the NFL in 2025. But I do think it has a lot to do with the fact that these guys don't get open and separate, except for the fact that, okay, that typically doesn't happen, and it wasn't, par for the course against the Jaguars. But there were plenty of times, maybe not the majority, but plenty of times when you watch back the tape and you see, oh, second read was open. No, first read was open. And Brock already looked him off. And that's the deep shot. That's the play that he wants. And he wasn't seeing it. He wasn't taking it. Frankly, he looked like Trevor Lawrence out there. Not throwing with anticipation, tippy-tapping in the backfield, has no pocket feel whatsoever. Thank God Trevor Lawrence never got pressured. Otherwise, he would actually have to play quarterback. And then whenever he throws it, he's a beat or two behind. The best example of this play is the play that Pearsall re-aggravated his knee injury on, that deep ball. And Pearsall somehow almost caught that damn thing. But Brock has a clean pocket. It's a second progression. It's the shot that he really wants. And he still took 3 extra steps in the pocket. And he was still a beat or two late on the throw. So the ball's out of bounds. Pearsall's having to do something miraculous to catch it. And in that process, he face plants and he falls on his knee because he had to extend his whole body in the effort to catch the ball. That's a hospital ball. That's a play that gets you injured. And it's small and it's insidious, but that is not... I can't point to another game in Brock Purdy's career where he looked like Trevor Lawrence when we're talking about no anticipation, no feel, and no accuracy.
How much though is it about Brock, and how much of it is about what's going on around Brock? I mean, this is the Brian Billick point, which is the quarterback takes the blame for all of it, but sometimes it's hard to separate what's going on with the quarterback as opposed to what's going on around the quarterback. For example, the Niners offensive line allowed 16 total pressures in this game. So he was constantly being rushed. Secondarily, if you look at his weapons, there is no Kittle, Debo, Aiyuk.
No.
And then in this game, suddenly he looked around in the second half and there was no Pearsall or Jennings.
Right.
So now you're looking at Bourne, who the Patriots said was done.
Well, and as the tape said yesterday, should not play again.
He had 4 targets. He had 3 drops.
Yeah. And he couldn't block. He couldn't block somebody on Twitter right now. So it's embarrassing.
That's a good line.
But I mean,
there's
one
they're
play
leaning
that
on
would have been a
Tongus.
touchdown.
It's Tongus, Sky Moore, Kendrick Bourne, Luke Farrell, Demarcus Robinson. And by the way,
sound like a playoff team to you, Lair? What the hell are you talking about?
Why? What is Demarcus Robinson in the doghouse?
No,
I mean,
that's
bro.
some
You
BS.
need to throw it to Demarcus Robinson. He wasn't even hurt. He's healthy. He's been healthy. Throw him the freaking ball.
I'm with you. I thought it was weird that they were playing Bourne over him, that Bourne had more snaps than him, particularly in the first half. I thought he actually got open quite a bit, but this is sort of now a continuation of the point that I was making and getting a lot of flack for in the preseason, which is this team hasn't practiced. That kind of matters. Who were the 2 guys who actually were out there like every day, more or less? I can't even say truly.
Demarcus Robinson
and Purdy, but then he hasn't practiced in 3 weeks, and the wide receiver room's totally crazy. And Purdy looks like he didn't practice basically all week until Friday, which is a walkthrough. So that chemistry's kind of devolved into nothing because, again, Robinson wasn't around the team for 3 weeks. And then the 2 guys who were out there were Pearsall, more or less, and Purdy and Mack, right? And is it a shock that Pearsall got off to a good start? I don't think so. Now, I do think that has more to do with his talent and all these things. But when you're just playing receiver roulette every day, almost dropped my water bottle, getting so excited over here. Playing receiver roulette, like this is where those reps in the preseason, those reps at training camp, those reps even at OTAs manifest. Because as you noted, you're looking around in the third quarter, fourth quarter of that game, you don't have your number 1 option. You don't have your number 2 option. Your true number 1 and 2 options are sitting on the bench somewhere. And that's, beyond Pearsall and Jennings. And now you have to have had those reps with these guys. Kendrick Bourne showed up on the street. They played him that week, right? Demarcus Robinson missed 3 weeks there. Yeah, he was there every day, but they always kind of played it with a little bit of kid gloves because, well, he's not going to be here for the first 3 weeks. You have Jake Tonjes. How many times do you think Brock Purdy had thrown to Jake Tonjes in his life before week 1 this season? What kind of first-team reps is Jake Tonjes getting with Brock Purdy during training camp? I'm not saying that this exonerates anybody. It's just an overall point of this team didn't practice. This team didn't build up any chemistry in the preseason. And then they get into the regular season and they pull off 3 wins that you cannot take away from them by the hair of their chinny chin chin. They get into another game like this, but when those kind of reps that you need to have, that chemistry that you're supposed to build up in training camp really got tested, it didn't show up because your quarterback was a lesser version and your roster is now a lesser version than what it ever could have been. Not that it started off all that hot.
Thursday night, is Purdy going to play? Should he play? Is Jennings going to play? Should he play? Is Pearsall going to play? Should he play? What do you think?
I'd guess no on all 3 right now. I mean, the bulky knee thing from Pearsall is going to be a fascinating test for kind of establishing.
What's that injury, you think?
Well, I think it's the same knee injury that he came into the week with, and then I think he just fell really hard on it. I think they said it's a sprained PCL because that's the new in vogue injury for the 49ers. Pooney's got one. Everyone's getting a sprained PCL there. You got to get a sprained PCL.
Oh, I hear there's all the rage.
Listen, you're not going to be one of the cool kids unless you get a sprained PCL. So, yeah, he pulled himself out of that game. I think it would be rather ridiculous to imply that maybe he's getting away with it. Maybe he got all the points he needed on this to imply that Ricky Pearsall's not a tough guy, seeing as he came back from a gunshot wound last year. But it was his call. I don't know why it's his call, but it was his call. And I can't imagine. I mean, the way that he was describing it was that it felt like unstable. I'm not going out and playing on an unstable knee in an NFL game. That's a good way to end up with a Tyreek Hill situation, right? Like, unstable knee sounds catastrophic if something were to go wrong, particularly playing on artificial turf like they do in Los Angeles. So I would expect him to go no, and I would expect there to maybe be a little bit of flack for that from the seediest corners of the interwebs. I don't know how Jennings can walk, much less play football. What a warrior. He'll try to be out there. I know that about him. I don't think it's in anyone's best interest for him to be out there. And then with Purdy, I mean, if he was listed as a did not practice on a day that they didn't practice, hard to imagine that he's going to be able to play for a game that is, 72 hours away. Yeah, they're getting on a plane on Wednesday.
Should they have played him against Jacksonville? Because I think they put it in his. Yeah. In his. I think he made that decision, and they just were okay with it.
There's no other way that you can do it, right? Like, you cannot. It's the NFL. You cannot do this. Oh, we'll get him next week. Like, you just can't. You have to take every week as it comes. You have to try to win every week. Brock Purdy at his best gives them the best chance to win. He was clearly not at his best. It was never so extreme as to think, hey, let's put in our injured backup. Yeah, you have to trust the quarterback in that. Now, I do think that you have a little bit less trust in your quarterback to make that call moving forward. But if Brock, it's a toe injury, right? Like, it's not as if you can take an MRI of it and be like, it's healed. This is a notoriously nagging injury. And he doesn't even have a full bore version of it. So if he says he was good to go and he's being honest about that, and it sounds like everybody else said that he, felt like that was as good as it had felt in a long time, then you have to roll those dice. And they came up with snake eyes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you have to roll those dice. I think you have to know what you're dealing with, and you got to protect the player from himself. They should have saw what I saw, which was that he was high all week in practice and that his passes were sailing on him. Yeah. And just say, hey, look, we're not seeing the kind of consistency as a thrower that we need you to show. So we're going to go with Mac Jones. Now, they maintain that Mac Jones was not as healthy as Brock, but
I mean, you watched Mac running pregame warmups. It was like, first off, Mac Jones always looks injured when running.
Mac Jones doesn't. To me, Mac Jones looked the same as Mac Jones always looks in practice.
I'll tell you this: having watched that Arizona tape now 6 times, I probably need to reevaluate my life. But that's neither here nor there. He was overtly hobbled late in that game. It's just hard to tell when you're just watching the game footage because it's Mac Jones, right? Like, what's Mac Jones overtly? It's not like Lamar Jackson here. Like,
but you're saying even though he was overtly hobbled, you're saying that you'd go with him in this game. You're not saying go with Adrian Martinez.
I don't know. I don't know. I guess you're going to ask the same question to Mac Jones that you asked to Brock Purdy last week. How do you feel? And
well, I
will also say this with the errant throws in practice. I'm not saying that I'm not in any way saying that you didn't see that, and that is not a good point that you made, in that you should see that and say, hey man, like, you're not yourself. I don't want you if you're not yourself. I need you, not whatever this is, because this isn't good and this is going to lose us a game. You also want to, give a little bit of deference for, this guy's a gamer and what he did in Seattle on that Thursday night, a couple of, his first year, like all these things, like, what he's, stuff that we don't know in its detail. Like, they know the injuries that he's played through and how well he's played, because in general, he's played very well on those injuries. I'll also add this: we don't get to see the entirety of practice. And it could have been just a suggestion. It could have been a situation where he starts practice, he looks like crap because he has a bad toe, and then as practice went on, he got into it a little bit here, and then he started to look like Mac Jones, he started to look like Mac Jones would have been an upgrade, started to look like Brock Purdy again. So that is the only mental space that I can go to maybe throw a little bit of cold water on your point, because it's a good point. If that is what they saw in practice, if what you saw at practice expanded into the entirety of practice going into the game, then you're just operating in wishful thinking. That's not a good way to go into an NFL game.
Well, let's just say this. I actually said to Brock Purdy in the postgame at the podium, hey, I noticed that you were high with your throws in practice this week. And that I used that as the premise. And I said, you were high at a number of throws in this game. Do you think it was related to your toe, or the mechanics of your throwing are related to the toe? Now, it's the kind of question that nobody wants to use a premise. Nobody wants to ever agree with a premise they don't agree with. And Brock's no different. If my premise was just totally crazy, he would have been
stuck, right?
He would have
stuck.
He would have attacked me, or he would have, he's not that kind of a guy typically,
no.
but he would have pushed back on my on my, what I was using as the pretext. He would have pushed back on that.
That would have been a good time to say, yeah, it would. But as games, as I played more, it got better and better. And I thought that's what would happen today. But that would have been.
He said it instead. He said, hey, look, I got to watch the tape, and I got to be honest with myself. And I don't really know the answer. I don't really know if my toe situation was leading to me being high in practice or with my throws. And I don't know that it was leading to me being high with my throws in this game, but I have to watch the film and be honest with myself. I thought that was a really grown-up, mature, correct answer to a fair yet critical, tough kind of a question. And I think that it'll be interesting to see. I think he's going to take himself out of this game on Thursday and allow himself to heal. And I think the Niners ought to give him 2-3 weeks to see if it will quiet down. I mean, that's the way I would look at it. But
can I throw one thing your way, Larry?
Please do.
How much do you think Brock wanting to play in this game had to do with Mac Jones winning the prior two?
I think it has a lot to do with it. I know that sounds crazy, because one guy's got a $265 million contract, and then there's, it's signed, sealed, and delivered. But I've told you that I really think, and it's kind of coming back to haunt me, actually. I told you and others that I thought that the Mac Jones acquisition in the offseason was awesome, because I thought Brock needed a competitor to, somebody to really compete with to get the best out of Brock. And instead, now we're getting the downside of that, because, he doesn't have a nobody there. So I'm sure on some level is some fear that, you could lose the starting gig to Mac Jones, because he is a starter in the NFL and he is playing well. And he was possibly Kyle Shanahan's handpicked guy in 2021. So, I do think that, not that it's 100% to do with it. I'm sure Brock's feeling a little bit better, but I bet you anything that he's like, man, I want to get out there. And then Now I think he's going to be like, hey, look, I'm going to be judged on how it looks and how we fare. So if I can't protect myself, if I can't escape, if I've lost my 1-5-4 10-yard split, and I am also throwing to the Kendrick Bournes of the world, and I'm also being protected by a line that's giving up 16 to 20 pressures a game. I mean, yeah, maybe I ought to think about my health and my longevity and my what's a good scenario. He's not like that. He just wants to play, and he's simplistic about it. But yeah, I do believe
there is part of me that in the back of his head that's like, I'm going to show them. Like, I'll let them all. I'm going to remind them all why I'm the man. I don't think that you lose the chip on your shoulder just because you signed the contract. In fact, I bet that chip gets a little bit bigger because it has to be artificially enhanced a little bit. Because what's your incentive once you get paid like that? You gotta go Michael Jordan and make stuff up. And Brock Purdy's been on a mission. I mean, he'll tell you a mission from God, Blues Brothers style, to do
this
this
mission
thing.
from God.
Exactly, like to do this thing, and then it's all worked out for him, save for overtime of the Super Bowl, which wasn't his fault. And which, by the way, I just thought about this the other day. Yesterday we had a tie.
Yeah,
all time
40-40.
bad decision. All-time bad decision. No. We'll take the ball first in overtime of the Super Bowl. I was walking down the stairs the other day, and I don't know what dawned on me. And I'm just like, oh, yeah, that's one of the dumber things anyone has ever done. That, if it wasn't Kyle Shanahan, if that was Nick Sirianni, he would have been fired the next day. I think that I don't think we bring it up enough, frankly. All-time dumb decision. And these new overtime rules are incredible. Like, let's just make sure that everyone gets a participation trophy, but not extend overtime.
Well, and the explanation. We were playing for the third possession of overtime.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, that was
on
bad.
what planet? No. We wanted to make sure that Patrick Mahomes got 4 downs every time.
Right. I mean, it's just it was bad. It was bad. And then the footage of Niner players going, like discovering the rule in real time, that also is disconcerting.
I mean, that's not their job. That's Kyle Shanahan's job. And
yeah, no, I mean,
put them in a position to be like, wait a minute, what?
Andy Reid outcoached him right in that moment for sure. I mean, and going back, by the way, Brock Purdy was not just high on the turnovers. He was high on that Kendrick Bourne 3rd and 10 dime in the fourth quarter. They were forced to punt after Bourne dropped it. And that was a high throw. But it was right there to him, and he dropped it. He also threw too high to Marcus Robinson in 4th and 3 from the 24 when they turned it over on downs. So the other thing that I think is interesting is that Todd Husak, who I was sitting next to at the game, noticed that Purdy throughout the game, going all the way into the fourth quarter, at every single stoppage, extended stoppage, was throwing on the sideline with Mac Jones. And Todd, who's a former quarterback, says that's not normal. No, that's not normal to be throwing constantly in the fourth quarter. And it told him that there's something that Brock either there's a lack of feel or something that he wanted more reps, more practice. And that probably is worthy of a question on Thursday if we get him in there.
I mean, we should get him tomorrow.
Or not Thursday, Tuesday, tomorrow. Well, we won't get him tomorrow if he's not going to play on Thursday, but we'll find out. What about the offensive line? Because here's a stat that really jumped out at me. I couldn't believe this one. This is a pretty amazing stat.
You literally cannot throw a stat at me that I wouldn't believe about that offensive line watching.
Okay, here's one. Here's one you're probably not going to believe.
Okay.
Colton McKivitz is PFF's number 1 graded pass blocking right tackle in the NFL after 1 month. He's allowed only 6 pressures through 4 games.
Yeah.
He trails only Penei Sewell in overall grade among right tackles, but he's number 1 as a pass protector. So
not at
the
all.
Niners' offensive line's been horrible. They can't open run lanes for the running backs. They're getting dominated and pushed around and owned in the red zone, and they're not great pass protection either.
No.
What would you do, if anything? Is there anything to do? Or is that just like crazy talk? I mean,
no.
You're not going to bench Trent. Obviously, you're not going to bench Colton. I don't know if you have better guards than Colby and Pooney, and Brendel seems to be the teacher's pet favorite of Chris Furster. what do you think? I mean, is there anything to do, or is it just, hopefully Chris coaches them up and they get better?
I don't think that this is an issue of coaching. I mean, they know the plays. They're trying. They can't do it. Trent can't protect for more than 2 seconds in pass pro. He can't do it. He can't go backwards. If you speed rush him and you want to go around the corner, you can every time, no matter what, which is, by the way, par for the course for most left tackles in the NFL, but that's never been the case for Trent Williams. And he lives on the island. They've put him on an island still because Connor Colby next to him, for as good as he was, and I want to be clear, he was outstanding against the Saints. It regressed a little bit against the Cardinals, unquestionably, though he still had some pop, and he was abysmal against the Jaguars, who have some good defensive linemen, but it's not a Jaguars thing. It was him. Brendel is the kind of center that gets better as the year goes along, and I think that they just have to hope and pray that happens again this year. But I'm not telling anyone that he's been good. He's been bad. He ends up on his ass a lot. He gets spun around a lot. He is in a very unfortunate situation where he's not good enough to do 2-man's jobs, and he has to do 3 because Pooney's knee is done. If they had a viable backup, the tape off of the Saints game and the tape off of the Cardinals game would have been more than enough evidence to say, Dom, you need to shut it down for a couple of weeks with this sprained PCL that you picked up in that special teams rep against the Raiders and then re-aggravated in week 1. Like, that would have been ample evidence that this guy is too injured to play effectively. He fought really hard. He's trying really hard. He got steamrolled on multiple plays, not figuratively, literally, flat on his back, run over. So if you're a center, and typically with the zone system, it's a combo block situation, you're going and you're helping, and then you're getting to the next level. Well, how is he supposed to help with both his left and his right on seemingly every snap? And then getting to the next, how's he supposed to get to the next level and take out a linebacker? Devin Lloyd didn't get touched all game. I mean, they played.
He dominated. He had an incredible game. Best game of his career.
He's an incredible player, to be fair. His tape was awesome. But, I think it was the first or the second run play of the game. They had Jordan Lewis, who's a solid, fine nickel. They had him as effectively a Sam linebacker. And he made a hell of a play. He knifed in between a duo block and got to Christian McCaffrey. But that's not possible if you actually effectively run the blocking scheme. But Brendel can't get to the next level, and Pooney can't get to the next level because Pooney's having such a hard time with the first level, and because Brendel has to stay in and make sure that block is sealed before he can go to the next level. So tactically, there's a lot of issues there. I mean, it doesn't shock me at all that McKivitz has been good because McKivitz has been good. It's just not noticeable because his guard next to him, I know he's injured, and so I feel bad saying this. He's also a good guy, and he's a good player. He has 17 games of really good evidence to this. But Pooney sucks right now. And Brendel's not the kind of guy who can clean up other people's messes. He makes enough mess of his own. And you have a backup in Connor Colby who's too injured to really be effective, but they're still throwing all the major stuff at him. And that kind of is the larger point of what I took away from watching the tape, Blair. Brock Purdy was in, and Kyle's like, cool, we can run the full offense again. Let's do all of our stuff that we had to pare back the last 2 weeks with Mac at the helm. Let's do all the Purdy stuff again. But the talent around Purdy and Purdy himself were not capable of executing that. And so the stuff that wasn't going great but was simplistic got exacerbated out because it was more complicated. And you're running plays where Kendrick Bourne is having to make the key block on a swing pass. Meanwhile, Kendrick Bourne's looking for someone to block. Whoops, he's behind me. I have a still frame of Kendrick Bourne looking for someone to block. And the guy that he was supposed to block standing 2 yards behind him directly in Christian McCaffrey's face. And it's like that again and again and again. It's a bad situation. I do think that it would behoove them to find some spot for somebody somewhere on that line. I think that they thought that they had kind of already made that change. They were forced to because of Barch's injury with Colby, and that he would be the new, but he's injured too. I do think that whether it be Drew Moss or Nick Sakelj or heaven forbid Matt Hennessy or Burford's injured, so you can't play him there. Like they need to pick one of the two guard spots and put somebody else in there so that at least Brendel doesn't have to look in both directions to see if he needs to help there. Because again, this isn't to say that Brendel's not doing bad things. He makes enough messes of his own. He can't be cleaning up other people's stuff, right? He's not capable of doing that. Meanwhile, you got a rookie next to Trent, and so you think, oh, it'll be fine. He's next to Trent, but that's not Trent. That's not Trent Williams. That's somebody else. That's a normal, serviceable NFL tackle, not Trent Williams, one of the greatest of all time. And now do you need to switch it so that Colton McKivitz is on an island? I highly doubt the PFF grade is going to hold up under that scrutiny. So they got a real issue here. I don't think it's a schematic issue as much as it is these guys are too injured to run the plays that are being asked to be run, and simplifying it anymore might be the answer. But also, like, do you have enough talent to run a simple scheme? It's a tough one. It's a real conundrum. Kyle Shanahan's going to earn his money here the next couple weeks.
Maybe the next couple days. Let's hit a couple supers here. Brendan Green says Brock and Mack are throwing to plumbers and farmers.
Plumbers make a lot of money. They don't make as much money as these receivers, though.
I didn't understand the DeMarcus Robinson lack of usage this week, and I don't understand what the hell they see in Kendrick Bourne. It's like, I feel like the 49ers fired all their personnel guys, and they're just winging it with their opinions over the last 3 years. And it's like, well, I mean, I've heard them say, well, we like this guy in the draft, and we kind of like that. Have you evaluated anybody recently? I mean, you keep going. Kendrick Bourne, I mean, there was a whole group of receivers that were out there that were young and up and coming, and you decided you didn't want to look at any of them, and you wanted to go to Kendrick Bourne. And Kendrick Bourne is totally cooked. He's totally done.
No, he's
and
awful.
It's like, I don't understand. Nobody else seems to understand that. It's like people are asking questions, and people are making
watch the game.
Well, people are making it seem like Kendrick Bourne is somehow the Kendrick Bourne that he used to be, which was
he wasn't that good.
He was okay 3 years ago, but that was before he tore his ACL. I mean, the fact that he's even on the team is crazy. The fact that he's on the team getting reps over DeMarcus Robinson, who was their best receiver all summer, is like, did somebody make a wager on this? I mean, what's going on here? That was completely crazy. I think Brock's weapons, are pretty subpar. And then this is another interesting super from Sean's Garage. He says the O-line sure blocked well for Mack those 2 games. And, Mack is not mobile. Not necessarily against Arizona, but, I mean, he had time to throw against New Orleans. So it is kind of odd for a guy who doesn't move well at all.
I don't know if we want to hold up New Orleans as this bastion of great defense. I thought they were
Granderson.
No, Granderson had 2 pressures.
I take Granderson right now.
What wouldn't you take right now?
I mean, I think their defensive line is actually pretty decent, but I mean, the Niners O-line played well in that game for the most part. That was the best. I think that game was probably the best their O-line played.
And Colby was unbelievable in that game, right? And Pooney fought. Pooney actually had a bad game in that one, but Brendel looked good. Colby was unbelievable. Trent bounced back in a big way. A lot of pride in that game for Trent. And McKivitz was the steady Eddie. So it was only one horrific player on the line, that being Pooney, who fights so hard that he can prevent it from being a complete disaster class where the entire offense crumbles. But also you were dealing with a scheme that really gave you a lot of heads-up blocks and linebackers that were just in hell because of all the play action that they were doing on a more simplistic game plan. And you can't get to the quarterback typically if you have corners that can't cover anybody at the line of scrimmage. So when you have Ike Yadam on one side and whomever's up against him, it doesn't matter if it's Kendrick Bourne, is beating him off the line, well, now suddenly your defense doesn't look as good. Again, it's not to say that they didn't have a good game as an offensive line. It's just to say that they didn't have to have the same game that they had against the Jaguars for a variety of reasons. And then you look at the Cardinals tape and Mac's knee got injured again. And there was, they couldn't run the ball and all these things. So it was a more simplistic game plan. It was a more Garoppolovian game plan. And when they go to this, they got into this game and Brock was back there like, we're running the Brock offense, which is a different sort of thing. It's nuanced, but it's different. And they were not at all prepared, frankly. And they weren't capable, certainly, of executing that game plan. I want to see the Garoppolo game plan until it's proven that a Brock Purdy offense can run that. And then you can graduate to the cool stuff that Kyle did last year, did the year before that, and wants to do again this year.
Let's make a sleeper lineup. 49er football on the Krug Show this year is presented by Sleeper, the fastest growing fantasy platform in the world. It's a one-stop shop. You get blazing fast news, real-time stats, group chats, season-long leagues, and of course, Sleeper picks for daily fantasy, where you choose 2 to 8 players pregame or live and pick more or less on their stat projections. If you're new to it, use promo code Larry, Larry, and you'll get a 100% deposit match up to $100 on your first deposit. The link's right there in the description. Terms and conditions do apply. Niners Rams go Thursday at SoFi. Dieter, I'll let you pick who we're going with. Who do you want to go with?
Let's go for the kid.
I see a Cam Scatabo thrown in
That's so
there.
weird. Yeah,
what's he doing in there?
Well, the meatheads love him. Can we go to the pride of East Palo Alto? Can we look at a Devontae Adams prop of sorts?
There it is. Devontae Adams, 51.5 receiving yards. You like more? You like that over?
Yes. He's their man beater. Nakua's their zone beater. Niners have been running a lot of cover 6, which is half man, half zone. I don't know what the situation is with the Renardo Green. I haven't liked the situation when Renardo Green's even been playing, but they've been using him and Luter as sort of the traveler in 6, playing the man side. Brian Thomas Jr., who is like objectively not very good these days, had a nice game. Devontae Adams, what would he do against the same stuff? And I imagine he's going to get the same stuff. So if the Niners need to blitz more, that means more man on the back end. If the Niners want to keep running what they're running, I think it's still plenty for Devontae Adams. So I'm going to take more on Devontae Adams receiving yards. Yeah,
I like that one. I mean, the Rams have the 3rd best passing offense in the league. The 49ers can't rush the passer. They're 26th in sacks.
Right.
The Niners do have the 6th best pass defense, but that was, full with Bosa.
Right.
I think there's a very good chance. That's a good one. I like that one. All right. Let's see. What other direction do we want to go here? How about,
I mean, look, isn't it telling that there's nobody on the Niners side of this column because they don't know who the hell is going to play?
I know.
They're like, Christian McCaffrey will be there. Somehow he's the healthiest 49er.
Nobody else is even there. That's it. That's the only guy.
Unless, if you keep scrolling down, you might get a Jake Tonjes line.
There's no other Niner?
There's no other Niner.
We have to take CMC then because we have to have one on the other team. All right, let's see CMC. 58.5 rush yards.
Can you get me some receiving yards? Is that an available option?
No, that's it.
Oh boy.
I would say let's go under in the rush yards.
The line is at 58.5.
They can't run the ball. They can't run the ball. Think about that. That's 20 carries. That's 20 carries for this guy. With the way
they might
running
give him 20 carries. Who else is going to touch it?
Yeah, but 20 carries is what it's going to probably take for him to get that. Is he going to get 20 carries in this game where Stafford's going to put up, passing yards? I think the Niners are going to be. It's going to be another shootout.
A game script game.
I'll tell you, the easiest play of last week was the Brock Purdy 32 pass attempts over.
Yeah, without a question. I mean,
you can't run.
It was so obvious.
Pass.
Yeah, if you want to play less than, feel free. It feels like a very good line, but. Yeah, game script's a good tiebreaker.
Well, what do you think? Well, maybe not. Maybe is your read different? Is your one time, and I don't forget what year it was a few years ago, the Niners were really struggling. They got either a Monday nighter or a Thursday nighter against the Rams at home. They came out in an 18-play drive, and they just ran it down their throat and kind of showed that they were the tougher team, and then kind of made it a referendum on toughness, and McVay kind of fell into the trap, and the Niners got that win, and they might have gotten a couple other wins until McVay realized, hey, I don't have to, it's not a mano situation.
It does turn into a member measuring contest with those two coaches sometimes.
Yeah, so I think there's a very good chance that what do you think? Do you think the Niners
they can't run
off of, with a hurt Purdy, just gave up a ton of pressures, an O-line that's struggling? Shanahan, I thought Shanahan had one totally disingenuous answer today. He was asked, why is your offense struggling running? And then the person who asked the question was like, because your yards per carry are in the threes. Okay, well, oh, shit. As soon as you gave him that, then he's like, well, the reason for that is that we haven't had any real explosive runs. It's like, well, wait a second.
You haven't had any mediocre runs.
Yeah, it's like, so you're going to tell me why you're not a good running team by telling me that you haven't gotten any explosive runs. That's not really... That seems like a flimsy excuse. It's like
no. We're a great running team. We just don't get yardage.
Yeah, we're a great running team. We just can't get 4 yards.
I'm a millionaire. I just don't get good paychecks.
Right. Or I'm really, really smart. I just don't test well. That's always another one. I just don't test well.
No, he's got street smarts.
I'm really smart. I just don't test well. I got a terrible 11th percentile on the SAT because I just don't test well, but I'm really a genius.
He got a 4 on the Wonderlic, but he sees it. He's really got it. So my concern on this one is that I don't know who else is getting the ball. Kyle has no governor whatsoever when it comes to giving Christian McCaffrey the ball. And
do they just sell out to the run in this game because maybe they're going to have a backup quarterback?
Part of me wonders if they can,
be over.
If they go to more gap stuff, which I do think has been closer than the zone stuff, and could that break against this Rams get to that second level of the Rams defense? Like you can get that, but then can your offensive line physically run gap stuff? I don't think they can. I think a lot of Chris Shula, the Rams defensive coordinator. But then there's also the element of he does have to sell out one way or another. And we've seen this throughout the last 2 years for the Rams. The secondary is so bad he can either bolster the secondary and just hope he get home with 4, which sometimes they do, or he can just totally decide I'm stopping the run and we're going to dare the quarterback. 58.5 is just a danger zone number because he's going to get 50. Kyle will give him 50 no matter what. I'm willing. It's not my ticket. It's not my promotional value. I'm willing to follow your lead on this one. I've said my piece. It's a danger zone number at 58.5.
Which way do you want to go? You want to go more or less?
My gut feeling is more.
Okay, let's go more. Let's go more. We'll give it a go. We'll give it a go because I think there's a chance you may see Kyle just sell out to the run game because he's got Mack in there and an O-line that can't pass protect. You got Verse and Fisk and Agent Zero's having a great year. I mean, the Rams, you could argue, are easily the best defensive front the Niners have gone against. So it might be in their best interest if they want to keep their quarterback upright to run the fuck out of it.
Okay, it is lest we forget the Seattle Seahawks, but yes, Seahawks have the best defense in the NFL, in my opinion, and they have a big beefy front that got after it. But they do have but they don't
have Verse and Agent Zero off the edges.
Yeah, but those are pass rushers, and I think that there's.
You just said that Trent Williams can't handle speed.
Yeah, but that's a Brock Purdy, Mac Jones problem, not a Christian McCaffrey problem. I do think that the toss,
which is why I think they may run it a lot to try to have Trent.
You're following my lead. Sorry, I'm so used to an adversarial tone, Larry. That's from me. That's me setting the standard there. I do think the toss play might be there in this game, and they haven't done a lot of toss plays, mainly because their receivers have sucked at blocking, but the corners for the Rams are so bad that they might say, like, hey, Kendrick Bourne, cut it out. Like, we're doing this on the first and second play of the game. If you don't block on these, you're not playing anymore. Like, there's a tone setter for you. And I do think the toss play is there, and they just haven't gotten to it enough. I find it very strange. I don't find it strange. It's just them. It's just Kyle doing the Kyle thing where there's an answer. There's always an answer. And I see X, therefore Y and Z. And he refuses to acknowledge that there's some gray area in all of this stuff and that it's not just mathematical formulas. So, yeah.
Let's have one more here. Let's pick another one. Let's go to Puka. Let's see what Puka's got. Let's see what Puka's got here.
98.5 is a tremendous amount for a line.
God, that's high. That's high. I would say go lower than that.
He's so good, though.
I would say less than that, right? Because
aren't
they going to be all over him? Isn't it going to be Upton Stout on him?
No. Here's the cool thing that they're
doing.
I
mean, who are you going to put on him?
Well, I do think that I talked about this with Hutch. I do think that this would be a great game if Renardo Green can't play, and particularly if he did, to say, hey, Demo, you know how we've been using Green and even Luter as like the true number one corner on our team, the guy who travels, the guy who handles the man-to-man responsibilities? We're going to do that with you this week, and we're going to do that where you have Puka Nacua. Because Puka Nacua is a tight end. No one will ever talk about him that way, but he plays tight end for the Los Angeles Rams. And they do the coolest damn stuff with insert blocks and inline snaps. He's George Kittle. His route tree is George Kittle. He's George Kittle. And they've basically turned Jordan Whittington into a blocking tight end who's out wide. It's really cool scheme. And this is a perfect game for Diamador Lenore to travel with him, which means that he's in the box. And I do think that he can muddy that water enough with him and D. Winters and Fred. I think those three, and perhaps even, I can't believe I'm saying this, but he's been good the last two games, some Jair Brown. I think that you throw those bodies at him and you commit to stopping him in the pass game. He's still going to get his in the run game because he's such a good blocker. I think this is the game for it. I'm with you. I'll go less. I feel like Bob Salah has to see that.
I think he'll be less. I think he'll be less either way. I think he'll be less even if the Rams dominate the game, because then they'll run it a lot in the second half and they won't be throwing it to him. And also I think there's a level of conservative that McVay will have against Shanahan that he doesn't have against other teams because he kind of respects Shanahan. So
also I don't give all of his cool stuff away in case when they meet later, and then when they play,
I just think
they think possibly in the playoffs they hold stuff back.
He's going to be more conservative. So I'll say that. Do we have a Kyron Williams in there at all?
I think an anytime touchdown for Kyron. Oh, you know what? Can you find me a Blake Corum anytime touchdown?
Yeah, I was going to say Corum and yeah,
because Kyron had a terrible fumble last week, and Corum has looked so good for them.
All they're giving us is rush yards.
I'll take more on that.
Then you want 29 rush yards for Corum?
Yeah, I think Corum's really good.
He had 9 carries for 21 yards last week.
Yeah, that's against the Eagles.
All right,
the Colts, who absolutely committed 8 every play. It was
four. Okay, so we're gonna go four legger here.
Yeah.
So we've got Blake Corum has to have 29 rush yards. McCaffrey has to have 41 rush yards.
Oh, that's nothing. We can get more than that.
Devontae Adams has to have 52 receiving yards, and Puka's got to have 98 or less receiving yards. And if all those things hit on our $5 wager, we will make $30.80. So
plus your
I like it.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like that.
$5 to win 30.80. Good stuff there. Big thanks to Sleeper. Remember, use code Larry for 100% deposit match up to $100. Links right in the description. Terms apply. Help support the show and gets you rolling on the #1 sports app. It's a ton of fun. You guys are going to love it. Sleeper, and thanks to Sleeper for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. All right. Chase Sr. threw out that the Niners ought to trade Brandon Aiyuk for Kayvon Thibodeau. The Niners had absolutely no rush. And it shouldn't be a surprise because the 49ers did not have a big rush with Nick Bosa.
Right.
They took Nick Bosa out of the equation, and suddenly your guy McKell and everybody just evaporated. Nobody could do anything.
Yep.
Nobody got anything done. Everybody was forced to step up, and nobody did. So, what do you do here? Do you try to, I mean, I suggested, hey, they need to make an addition or two. I was suggesting Mo Kamara off Tampa's practice squad. But that's just because I wouldn't start with a trade. I think I would start with a free agent signing or an addition from somebody's practice squad that you think might be able to give your line a little juice. And I'll get to the Trey Hendricksons and the Kayvon Thibodeaux, once we get into the middle of October. But
I want to talk about that right now because there's a flag I want to plant. But let's
go ahead.
I'll play on your turf for now.
Yeah, I mean, Chase Senior is saying, "Hey, would you trade Brandon Aiyuk for Kayvon Thibodeaux?" And
he has no trade value. He has zero trade value.
But his reasoning is just
Thibodeaux for him.
Well, I mean, he's a free agent at the end of the year, so the Kayvon Thibodeaux doesn't have a lot of value either.
But he has comp pick value.
Yeah, but I mean, Brandon Aiyuk, I mean, the idea with Brandon Aiyuk is just that, hey, you know what? If he's ready to roll,
they tried to trade him when he was healthy.
Replace Malik Neighbors.
They couldn't. So, yeah, sure, except for the fact that Brandon Aiyuk is, quote, nowhere close. So he's not replacing Malik Neighbors.
Which what happened to the people that were saying week one? I mean,
those people didn't know what they were talking about.
I mean, seriously,
there's a lot of them.
I mean, week one.
His knee turned into some sort of a pudding, but yeah, he'll be out there for week one.
I thought that was the craziest thing I've ever heard, and it was like somebody wanted that. Somebody wanted that in the public discussion and told somebody to say that. It's like that's unbelievable.
No. I don't think that that was anything from the 49ers. I don't. I think that was somebody
a bad estimate.
Yes, I think it was a bad estimate and good news. This is a weird irony of the social media age where everything is so toxic, which is ironic that I'm saying that given that I've been called a toxic person, but everything is so toxic that if you give somebody a bit of optimism, you give them a little bit of hope, that stuff spreads like wildfire. There's a reason all these AI Facebook pages do numbers because it just throws out random stuff that people want to hear. It's sycophantian media. You don't even need people to do it now. So somebody out there is thinking, oh, Brandon Aiyuk, and this is, I think, where they got this wrong, tore his ACL in week 7, right? 7 against the Chiefs last year. Most ACLs are about 9 months now, which is a hell of a, we've cut it in half in my time covering professional sports, an incredible testament to modern medicine and the professionalism of athletes these days. And they're going, oh, well, that should be about week 1. They forgot about the PCL, the LCL, and the meniscus, which are kind of important when running. So that's what I think happened. I think that someone threw out there week 1, and then the less scrupulous amongst us. And I don't think it actually ever got to like people who make money in the media saying stuff like that. But there's a whole bunch of other conversations happening, and that's cool. Knock yourself out, but understand that there's not a lot of fact checking happening there either. So that's what I think happened on that. I think that was a bit of wishful thinking from someone who didn't understand the complexity of Brandon Aiyuk's knee situation. And that kind of just catching on because hey, sure as hell the Niners needed some wide receivers to start the year. So week 1 sounded pretty good to a lot of people. I would say now that we can't even have the conversation for another month, which is kind of where you and I and a lot of other people were, where it's
I wouldn't play him at all, man. I would shut him down. I absolutely would shut him down because
life seems to find a way on these things. They might end up needing him real bad. They rushed Ricky Pearsall back last year. I mean, if you need a wide receiver, you need a wide receiver. And if he says he can go, you got to play him.
I know, but it's just like, this is this guy's career. I mean, if you come back from an ACL and a major ACL and he has a recurrence, his career's in the balance. So I think 49ers ought to think a little bit less about themselves, a little bit more about their player, and be very circumspect and not allow him out there unless they're going to the Super Bowl and, they need him at that point. But I mean, I would not just, and I definitely wouldn't throw him out there before Thanksgiving. I think he's a week He's a week 10, week 11, somewhere in there.
I'm not going to say that anything you said there is wrong. I do think that's right. I do think that maybe you're giving the 49ers a little bit too much credit because they're also, when they think about Brandon Aiyuk, they think about the mistake that they made, specifically Kyle made. And that is it's still a point of contention. That's not a lot of stuff leaks out of 49, but the point of contention over Brandon Aiyuk is still something that every now and again comes through the cracks and finds it to my desk. And the way that Kyle handled that kind of last minute, putting it on the table in front of Lynch, saying, like, we can't trade him. Lynch wanting to trade him. Lynch's guys wanting to trade him. Having the deal ready to go. Pittsburgh getting the plane ready for him. All that stuff. And then Kyle being like, you can't do it. You can't take him away. I'm pulling rank. That still reverberates a little bit. And they all came to the conclusion, right, this past offseason. They all said, okay, that was a mistake, Kyle. I'll never do it again, you guys. Don't worry, I'll never do it again. And then they tried to trade him, and everyone told them to go fuck themselves, rightfully so. No, we're not taking on a $30 million receiver whose knee turned to jelly. And so they just have to live with that. And now, if they shut him down for the entire year, now they're getting what is in effect 2 years of no Brandon Aiyuk, but paying the 2 biggest years of his contract. I appreciate if they actually do shut him down for the season, they're bigger men than me. Because at some point, I'm going to need some value for $65 million. I'm going to need it. Sorry, man. I'm not $65 million. You're giving me a game or two if you can go. If you're physically capable, you're giving me a game or two. I know that they're all about 26. I know that they're thinking about the future. They're also thinking about $65 million. You're getting something. It's the Denzel. I'm leaving with something here. Brandon Aiyuk never plays again. They got to get a game or two out of him. They got a half against the Kansas City Chiefs. That's all they have to show for that new contract, and it burns them. It's still a point of contention. I think that they're gonna play him, and we'll see what that looks like. But they'll chalk it up as well. We wanted to give him some run. It's about 26, and he needed to get back on the field and feel what that was like. Even though he probably looks like dog shit when he comes back. Let's talk about the dog shit defensive line.
What do you do? I mean, the Niners defense had 5 pressures against the Jaguars. They cannot go.
That's 5 more than I counted.
No, they had 5 pressures. They had no quarterback hits. They had no sacks for the first time in a decade.
Trevor Lawrence
never. What do you do? I mean, you can't sit
life.
around. You can't sit there and just be like, well, I mean, some Niner fans are like, hey, we're not good enough to make a trade. Come on, man. You're just gonna sit there.
There's always
sit there and wither.
There's always a 6th, 7th round. There's always a Khalil Davis that you can go get. Legend, 49ers legend. But like, here's what I would do in the here and now. I would play Jordan Jefferson more at defensive tackle. I thought he gave you good reps. I thought he held up. And I think that now every team, this is the new game plan now. Every team is going to look at those defensive tackles, Collins, but specifically Elliott, and just run duo at him. And you know who runs duo better than any team in the goddamn NFL? The Rams. They will run that play 40 times in a row until one of your defensive tackles stops it. These guys were on skates the whole game. At least with Collins, you have the potential to maybe one day hold up, right? Because he's big enough. I think he's got a good head on his shoulders, but he was getting pushback. But Elliott was awful. I mean, abysmal. And it's the first rule of game planning. Find the weak link, attack him relentlessly until he proves that he can beat you, then go to the next one. They did it with Elliott. Salah pulls him off the field, stops playing him, Casera too, stops playing him. They start playing Collins in those reps, and Collins is getting beat too. The only guy who did well and held up on the interior in that game was Jordan Jefferson in like 7, 8, 9 snaps. I haven't actually looked at the snap count, but every time he was out there, I'm like, hey, nice rep. Pretty good. So I would play him more because, okay, you don't have a pass rush. Stop the run. They couldn't even do that. And they had Michael on the end the entire time, and he's setting an edge that didn't matter because they're running it up the middle. And it's not to say that Michael had a good game. He had a bad game. But, like, he was also not in the action. And he needs to disengage from blocks better in that regard. Huff had a couple of nice plays because he does disengage from blocks. He also got ran at a couple times. The other thing I would do is I'd play Gibson. And Robert Beal got injured in that game. I don't know when.
You talking about Travis Gibson?
Travis Gibson. I'd play him. He gave you a little bit of juice in the preseason. He's somebody. But that you need to think about a trade. And there's a name that has not been thrown out because it's not an obvious thing. It's not a Nick Bosa replacement. But the name that you want to keep at the front of your mind, and I don't think they're going to trade him, to be fair. I don't think they're going to trade him. But the name you want is Jeffrey Simmons, the defensive tackle from the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, he's not going anywhere.
Well,
I'd be shocked. I mean, you're talking about arguably the most dominant defensive tackle in the game today.
It's doing them so well. If Micah Parsons can get traded, Jeffrey Simmons can get traded.
But I mean, he makes a ton and he's going to cost a ton.
I'm willing to give it all up. I'm willing to sacrifice it all for Jeffrey Simmons, Larry.
I am too, but I don't think
it changes it. If you don't have good enough ends, make sure that you need one elite player on the line. That's what we really know with the Bosa thing. He's an elite player. And think about the ends that Kansas City has. They're edge setters. They're guys who are situational at best, but they have Chris Jones, so it doesn't really matter. If you had Jeffrey Simmons in the middle, especially if you're not bullish on Bosa long-term here, and he did kind of get, this knee injury does screw him contract-wise moving forward, because this was supposed to be his summer of negotiation. I don't know what he can negotiate now. So he's probably going to have to play out the final year and I guess year of his contract. And then you bring it. We might be in a situation where they're moving on from Bosa because then he'll be 30. And now you're in a Trey Hendrickson situation, ironically. All these things. How about you do what the 49ers did a couple of years ago when they saw the writing on the wall with Debo and they saw the writing on the wall with the offense and they went out and they just said, screw it. We're going to get the best player and we're going to add him in. And he's going to fit what we do, and we're getting Christian McCaffrey. And you're all going to say, oh, that's ridiculous, as you gave up too much, it's stupid. We're going to give him a new contract. Go get the great players. You don't have enough great players. You have Fred Warner, and maybe Lenore. Is Lenore a great player? He's a good player. Is he a great player? You have one great player on your defense right now. You're going to need like 2 or 3 minimum if you want to do anything this year. And next year, now we're in another, who knows what happens over the course of this year that leads us to a situation where maybe you're still in the situation where you just have one because Bosa doesn't look like himself after a 3rd ACL surgery. And Diamador Lenore gets exposed again and again and again because he's too much of a gambler. And Fred is taking wear and tear like he did in 2024. And that happens again in 25. Like, I do think that Jeffrey Simmons, the Godfather package, I'd be willing to give it up right now because he's that good. And you're going to get 3 or 4 years of absurd excellence from him. Tennessee's going nowhere. The fact that Callahan hasn't been fired is malpractice. He was the worst coach in the NFL last year. Looked like a clear one and done because that team did have talent. He puts Will Levis out there. How do you not see in practice that Will Levis sucks? Puts Will Levis out there. This year, he's doing Cam Ward a terrible disservice. The dude's almost certainly going to get fired at the end of the year. And while it would be a nice perk for whichever coach comes in to have Jeffrey Simmons there, it's also ripe for a fire sale. And the 49ers can get that going with a nice first-round pick right now and say, hey, we're all in. We're all in on this year. I don't think they do it. Again, I think this is a little bit of fantasy land from Dieter Kurtenbach, but I want to see Jeffrey Simmons play football more frequently, and I don't want to watch Titans games anymore. So get it done because I do think it could be – I do think that can be the Nick Bosa replacement that everyone pines for. He's the closest thing you're going to get. Because Hendrickson is not Nick Bosa. He's a damn good player, but he's not Nick Bosa. And yes, he's expensive, and yes, he's going to cost a lot, and he's in a weird contractual situation. So do you even want to engage in that? Anybody else that we're talking about is not even close to Nick Bosa. When we talk about Nick Bosa, we're not talking about a defensive end. We're talking about a top 5, top 10 defender in the NFL. There is one of them. He should be at least someone that people take phone calls on right now. Go and get him. Because that's what this team needs. They need an elite player on the defensive line. I see one in Jeffrey Simmons. I haven't heard anyone bring it up yet. I figured we would here.
It's a great name. He's a terrific player. It's going to it would just cost you a ton. I mean, I think it's going to cost you multiple day 1 and day 2 picks, I think. But we'll see. I mean, it's a good name. He's a terrific player. I mean, there's just no question about that. To me, I think I would probably call the New York Giants. I probably would call the New York Giants because I think the New York Giants, between Brian Burns, Thibodeau, they've got Abdul Carter. They've got some decent players on their front that could help you. I don't know that I'm not really sure. I think this is not the year to go after the top guy. I think this is more of a secondary type guy year, right, because it doesn't seem like they might have to hedge as far as people say, oh, call Cincinnati. Yeah, call Cincinnati, but you know what? I think you're much more likely to get Joseph Osai than you are to get Trey Hendrickson. Why? Because Joseph Osai kind of fits the description of what they really like. He's 6'4", 265, so he's got the size to play the run. He also is 25, and he's got and you're talking about probably a 5th or 6th round pick. So I think they're going to make. If you said to me, do you think they'll go for the guy, or do you think they'll go for a guy? I think they're going to go for a guy, and I would say Joseph Osai from Cincinnati is probably as good a guess as any.
I'm with you on that. I think that that's exactly what they will do. I think that is fine. I don't think it changes anything fundamentally. And if they really wanted to do this, do it right. And the beauty of a Jeffrey Simmons situation is it's kind of like the McCaffrey one. There's not some big bidding war going on because everyone just presumes he's untouchable. He's the hot girl at the bar. No one's actually asking her for her number because everyone's too intimidated because it's like, well, we can't. Jeffrey Simmons, like he's one of the great, like they're never.
Well, I like the idea, but I just think that it's too expensive of a player. I'll give you a Jeffrey Simmons kind of compromise, okay?
Sure. Yeah.
Because Simmons is such a great player, and it will cost you a lot. And I think they're going to hedge because they know that they can't trade a 2026 first because they got that pick earmarked for a tackle, and it's already way beyond the time they need to fill that need. So I don't think they're going to move that asset. I think that asset's going to stay in house, the 26 first.
Probably.
But I'll tell you the guy after watching him that I would go after I kind of like your idea of Jeffrey Simmons, because guys who command double teams up front need to be respected, and they're very special. Right. How about Calais Campbell, who's older, cheaper, probably not going anywhere. He's a 6'8", 315-pound guy who's a 5 technique and a 3-4. He can play a 4-3 defensive tackle as well as anybody.
They asked about him in this offseason. They actually were willing to spend
he's almost 40. He's almost 40.
Yeah,
but I mean, he is
given the kind of business the other day.
This is the kind of guy, though. I thought he was so good in that Arizona game that, yes, if Arizona falls out of it and you get to the end of October and you're 4 or 5 days away from the trade deadline, I would try to get this guy. I'd try to get Calais Campbell.
I will say that they tried to get him this past offseason. He said the only place I'm playing is Arizona. So there's almost like an implicit no trade clause there because he's from Arizona. He lives in Arizona. If he was going to play, he was playing for the Cardinals. And
it's a short flight.
I don't disagree. Hell, the 49ers have played home games in Phoenix. So
it's a short flight. Yeah, exactly. It's our second home. All right, let's finish with this. The big finish on the Krug Show. And we wanted to go exactly an hour, but we're 8 minutes over. But I do want to finish with this last one. And we are brought to you on the Krug Show by our good friends at Habas Law. And I was on the phone today talking with Omar Habas, and we're big fans of Habas Law. They're a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. My dad was an attorney. My brother is a lawyer and was an attorney, and my sister's an attorney. And I've always known, my dad used to always say, hey, the difference between success and failure in life is having the right or wrong attorney. And, the Habas Law, they're fantastic. They attack the insurance companies who try not to pay you, and they know how to battle the insurance companies because they've been battling them and beating them for decades, and they're rooted here in the community. They're aligned with several great causes as well as several franchises like the Giants, the Earthquakes, the Sharks. So if you're in need of someone in your corner, call the best, right? Call the firm the insurance companies hope you never call, and that's Habas Law. They will fight to make it right. They're great personal injury attorneys. Visit their website, habaslaw.com. That's HABBAS law.com. 1-800-INJURED. is their phone number. They will fight to make it right. They're outstanding people, rooted here in the community, and great lawyers. So if you need a great lawyer, Habas Law, 1-800-INJURED. Once again, they will fight to make it right. All right. Final point. One of the stories that was kind of the juicy story coming out of the weekend was the very odd exchange between Robert Salah and Jaguars head coach Liam Cohn. And I call it odd because, man, these guys, when I say these guys, I'm talking about coaches. These coaches go to such great lengths to not give any bulletin board material, and they're pissed if you create bulletin board material, and they'll go out of their way to give guys like you and I just vanilla nothing answers so that they don't give bulletin board material to the opposition. And then last week, Robert Saleh, out of nowhere, volunteers that Liam Cohn has a sign stealing system that's intricate and that he knows all about it. And then his coaches, assistant coaches from Minnesota, were coached up on the sign stealing in Minnesota. And he put that out there. And Cohn was asked about it. And he was like, hey, man, I don't want to talk about it. And then
but he doesn't.
The Jaguars won the game.
Yep.
And as they were walking off the field, Saleh's shaking hands with Eric Armstead and some of the guys he knows. And they get within, let's say, 15, 20 feet of each other. And you can hear Liam Cohn says, keep my name out of your effing mouth.
Yeah.
And then,
he really
according
pulled
to
it off, too.
Nick Wagner, and I don't know that this was actually said.
I've heard this from a couple of people, and the Jacksonville reporters on the field attested to this.
Okay, so we'll take this as fact. He says, this is what Robert Saleh said back to him. I'll fuck your world up. You don't want to fuck with me.
That's right.
I will fucking end your fucking life.
That's right.
Robert Saleh seems like such a nice guy.
He is. He's also a lunatic, man. I love him.
I mean, and he's jacked. It's funny. My wife, he wore this Niners red pullover that they gave away to the fans in the preseason. And I gave one to my wife, and sometimes she wears it when she's walking. And it's hilarious. I'm like, honey, look, you're wearing the exact same sweatshirt that Robert Saleh is wearing on the sidelines, except for Robert Saleh, it's like skin tight. Yeah. It shows how jacked he is.
We wish we could, Lair.
Yeah.
I'm working on it.
Okay, what do you make of this entire thing from Robert Saleh without any media person asking him?
Yeah.
Brought that up.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like it was the smartest move. Why would you ever want to talk trash in any way, or even be perceived as talking trash to a team that you're playing right now? It seems like you're writing, checks that somebody else's ass is going to have to cover. And I would never do that. What do you think I mean, it's no different than, a girlfriend I once had who used to go into parties in high school and be like, my boyfriend's going to kick your ass.
Yeah.
And I would walk into a party and there'd be a couple guys there going, hey, man, your girlfriend says you're going to kick my ass.
Yeah.
I said, oh, really? She said that? I go, God, she's a special thing, isn't she?
What a spitfire that girl is.
What a sweetheart.
Yeah.
With girlfriends like that, you don't need enemies.
She loves to lie.
So, I mean, seriously, that happened to me a lot where dudes were like, dude, your old lady says you're going to kick my ass. I'm like, what? Bro,
I like that you were at parties where you can refer to her as your old lady. That's great. That's awesome. You were at a Rangers game?
In high school. Right. What's up, man? That's your old lady.
Is that your old lady?
Yeah. Is that your old lady?
Larry hung out at biker bars in high school.
What do you think? What was going on there? Fill in the blanks. Give us some insight. The only insight I can share with you is that when I was in the Canadian League and we watched film as a coaching staff, I was a defensive quality control coach. So I was the defensive guy. I was their grunt.
Yeah.
There was a defensive coordinator. There was a defensive line coach. There was a linebacker coach. There was a secondary coach. Multiple times while watching practice film, an argument started over whose responsibility it was in a certain coverage, and fisticuffs flew. spit cups flying, all kinds of Copenhagen spit being thrown all over the place, and guys getting thrown over tables, and guys in their 60s fighting other guys in their 60s.
That's some good Albertans right there.
I mean, seriously, I mean, this shit happens. Football coaches are volatile, and they will throw hands. Heck, Kyle Shanahan was literally just at last week's press conference describing being in a fight. And he's like, yeah, when you're in that fight and it's either fight or flight, and he's like going into it. Yeah. I can't think of Shanahan as a big brawler, but maybe he is. What is your takeaway on the entirety of that whole thing?
So I do think that Robert is more forthcoming than we give him credit for. He used to not be. And every press conference, once or twice, he'll do the thing that I like to do, which is he'll start a train of thought to a question, and then he'll pause, and he'll go, yeah, I'll tell you. And then he'll say what he's actually thinking, because he's a man who's operating with complete impunity for his job right now, right? Like,
he's got the gig.
He's got the gig. He's not going anywhere. And he has no reason to
he's a great dude to talk to, too. I really enjoyed talking to him. I feel like he's really smart. Man.
Yeah.
I think he's really smart. But he's really good with the media. I'm like, he
sees right through us.
He sees through us. But like, if you ask him a good question that he thinks comes from a good place, man, he will give you a very good, well thought out answer. And I think he appreciates that stuff.
He's a secure man, which I think is maybe the biggest aspect of all of this. So much of, I'll just speak on football coaches right now. So much of it comes from a level of insecurity. But he's secure in his job. He's secure in his manhood. He's secure in his intelligence. And he's secure that, whatever is going on with, the media, he's not going to be brought down by the San Francisco Bay Area media. So he's not going to spend the extra energy or time or whatever to think about ways to work around a question. And so I think he's just blunt with us. I think he's just honest with us. And me and Jake noticed this on the film. The Jaguars can in really interesting ways. And they're really good at late cans. And we both mentioned that. And we didn't go to sign stealing because we weren't asking around about it, because it was the Jaguars. And I don't even know who to text about the Jaguars these days. Had I put 2 and 2 together with the Rams stuff and had followed up on that quote, I would have been, oh, okay, I'll text somebody with the Rams and see that. But that is, in the aftermath now, it's pretty, like, this is what every team does. Some teams feel really bad about it and want to make sure it's a secret. And the other teams are pretty open about it and make it a priority of their situation. If you're going to show us a defense, you don't have to physically show us. If you just do the hand signal, like, why wouldn't we take that information? You're doing it in public. And we have it's a league where there's, speakers in the helmet. So it's not as if there's some sort of elaborate, those stupid bulletin boards that they put over, or they used to put over in college football. Like, if Fred Warner or whomever has the green dot doesn't switch up his signals, well, I think that's as fair as somebody standing on second base and being able to relay a sign in before pitch comm. Like, that's public information.
I think what people misunderstood is that they're not stealing the signs of the plays. The plays are being called in through a speaker into a headphone that's inside the green dot helmet. It's not that. It's the signs on the different levels of the defense, usually by the linebackers or the secondary, to one another that they're picking off. It's those signs. It's not the play calls. So people are like, don't they say it in the headset? Yeah. That's not the signs that they're taking.
Off of emotion, you need to now communicate. Like, for an example, if you have a trips diamond formation on one side, okay, so now you have a nickel, a corner, and typically a free safety stacked up. You need to discuss and conversate about who's pressing the point and who's picking up what zone, presumably zone, who's in the flat, who's taking the hook. You need to have that communication, because it might be the outside guy who's coming in, and the inside guy is, particularly on pick routes, you need to have that communication so you don't get picked. And you can yell it, But if you're on the road in the NFL, you're typically in a silent count. So you're probably not able to yell it to your teammate on the field. So you have hand signals. And you are absolutely allowed in the NFL and anywhere, frankly, to rip off those hand signals. There's no rule about that. And so if you see a hand signal that would, in effect, blow up your play, Liam Cohen and the Jaguars and the Rams and the Vikings and the 49ers have something that they can do at the line of scrimmage to adjust an audible to some new information that has been gleaned. So I think that Salah viewed the comment as a compliment, but the term sign stealing is so charged from the Astros scandal and baseball stupidity that everyone freaks out about it. And now Liam Cohen, who is not a secure man by all accounts, anyone who's there's a reason he had a bunch of different jobs, right? He kind of runs his welcome out pretty fast in places, but he's so good that he keeps getting good jobs. Just look at, I won't go through it again, but just look at the situation on how he left Tampa. And let me know if you think that's an up and up guy.
Do you think this has anything to do with the Jaguars' job?
No, I do. I think it had everything.
That.
I think it had everything to do with Salah just being honest, paying a quasi compliment. Here's things that are good about the Jaguars, right? I think the question was, what do you like about the Jags offense? And here's something that he likes because that makes his job harder. That's something he has to coach for. He's being honest with us. And Liam Cohen is like, what, you calling me a cheat? No, I'm not. I'm actually complimenting you. You're well within your rights to do this. And
but coaches are always looking. Their job is to motivate millionaires. So you know what? They're always looking for that thing. They're slighting us. They are slighting us. I mean, I see it with my kids' high school team.
Yeah,
they're 4-0. They're destroying everybody, and the coach is like, those guys, they don't respect. It's like, what?
That's
it's
fine.
Like
but
everybody's using everything they possibly can
over.
to motivate guys who are hard to motivate.
Feel free to use that in the locker room. Feel free to use that with your team. Fair game, whatever. If that's what gets your team going, so be it. It's kind of bullshit, but whatever.
May have gotten Jacksonville going.
But after the game, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think if Liam Cohen wants to use that as if he needs to Michael Jordan it and create these new enemies, go to town. That's fair game too. But that's not what it looks like happened. It looked like Liam Cohen took it personally. It looks like Liam Cohen internalized that. And again, I don't think he's a secure person. Now, I'm not a psychologist or anything. I just think his history and what I know about him from inside buildings is that he rubs people the wrong way, and a lot of that seems to be a bit of projection. And in this, it looked like he had won. He was feeling good about himself, and he wanted to let Robert Salah know that he didn't care for that situation. And I'll tell you this, he certainly understood what he was doing because he was nowhere near Robert Salah when he started yelling, because he knows that Robert Salah wasn't kidding when he said he would fuck his world up. And
Robert, you don't want to mess with Robert Salah. No. Hey, last one. What the heck with the Niner special teams? I mean, what the heck? What do we? I mean, so I want to get. You know how badly I want to love Brant Boyer. I mean, Brant, I can't love you if you won't let me love you. No. I can't love you if you can't make the my argument all summer was like, hey man, they were 32nd on special teams last year.
Worse.
They're bound to be better. But I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I'm actually wrong. They're not bound to be better. They're bound to be awful. Their coverage units are awful.
Yeah.
Why? Why are they so bad in punt coverage, especially, but kick coverage too? Why the Niners don't show any ability to cover a punt or a kick? What's the deal?
They have shitty players, to be blunt. And this is not to exonerate Brant Boyer, because when you look at those units, half of those guys were dudes that he brought in. Luke Gifford hasn't been very good at it. You know who's been really bad at it? Saran Neal. What is it you say you do here, Saran Neal? You're supposed to be this special teams ace. Every time I watch the special teams tape, because I'm the kind of dude that does that, I see him as the weak link. It's brutal what Saran Neal's doing. And they call it, and now he gets another guy. Hey, you need to call up Curtis Robinson. He's on your special teams full time. Well, Curtis Robinson's not that good at this. So the truth is they have a stars and scrubs roster. So special teams and the positions that no one ever thinks about were always going to be wonky. It was always going to be tricky because you don't have good football players at the bottom end of your roster, and those are the guys who fill out the special teams roles. But the problem is that the guys that you have on your roster almost exclusively for special teams, almost, because the specialists are pretty good. Weeks is very good. Morstead is very good. Piñeiro's been fine. And I think Sky Moore's been pretty good. But everybody else doesn't do good things on special teams. And that's where it is. And it's like, dude, if you were just having to take whatever Kyle and John gave you, I'd give you a little bit of deference, but you got to build these coverage units and you stole roster spots that could have been used by, I'm not saying decent players, but different players, guys who can maybe give you something from the line of scrimmage. And instead you're like, no, this is a priority. And those guys suck. You spent money on Saron Neal. He sucks. He sucks at this. He's not good. You spent money on Luke Gifford. You could have gotten
He called Saron Neal an all-pro special teamer.
Theoretically. I mean, maybe he's playing Madden on easy mode. I don't know. Like,
it's so baffling.
We couldn't stop him when he was with Buffalo or Miami. Then you look at it's like, dude, he was so good. Why wasn't he the Matthew Slater of Buffalo or Miami? If you have a really good special teams player, this is like a weird quirk of NFL roster building. If you have a really good special teams ace, you never let them leave because they can make the entire unit. Like a Trent Williams can make an entire offensive line and a Nick Bosa can make an entire defensive line. And head coaches that actually pay attention to special teams, so I guess the Niners excluded, would look at that situation and say he can never leave under any circumstances. And yet, both two teams in the division let him leave, and then the 49ers got him, paid him good money, and it's like, man, I don't think you should play him at that position anymore. Larry, I'll give you this. It is a damning indictment that Nick Martin can't play special teams on this squad. And in fact, if I don't see Nick Martin playing special teams on this squad in the coming weeks, it's a damning indictment on everybody. Because if Nick Martin can't play special teams on this team, he can't play anything. And I don't believe that. I know I'm not down on Nick Martin, but I firmly believe that he can absolutely be an asset to special teams on this unit. Unquestionable.
Might be time to activate Nick Martin. Sean's Garage says, oh, wait, hold on a second. I guess it would be nice if I
got the
put it on the screen. Sean's Garage, always a great show, Larry. One of my kids just started at San Jose State University. Maybe one of those days I'll stop by Pig and a Pickle. You should, Sean. All right, that is going to do it for us. We said we were going to get out of here in an hour, so we did it in an hour and a half.
This is the best we've ever done, Larry, and we ended on special teams talk. This is what I call a great show.
Yeah, seriously. Game on Thursday, Niners in L.A. Dieter, you're not going to L.A., are you?
I thought about it, and then I
twice.
Saw the injury report.
I will not be in LA.
I love that stadium, though. Shouts to that stadium. That stadium's awesome.
Cool. It looks cool.
You got to go at least one point. Go to a Chargers game.
I know. I got to go check that out. I was saying before, by the way, I was doing a KMBR show earlier, and I was talking about how we're 1 month into the season. And even though we're 1 month into the season, I feel like already the NFL is down to half the teams. This is what I have. In the AFC, these are the only teams I think have a shot. Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Indy, Jacksonville, Chargers, Baltimore, Denver, and
Kansas City.
Yeah. And in the NFC, Philly, Washington, Detroit, Green Bay, Niners, grudgingly, Rams, Seattle, Tampa. So I have 8 teams in the NFC. I've got 8 teams in the AFC that somebody could make an argument, I guess, for a Minnesota or somebody somewhere.
Minnesota or Atlanta.
I don't believe in Minnesota right now because of like quarterback and.
You don't like Carson Wentz?
I'm not a JJ McCarthy guy or Carson Wentz, but I mean, so that's 16. There's 16 contenders 4 weeks into the regular season, and half the league is basically put a line through them, and the other half of the league is still viable. What do you think of that? Those numbers? Do you think one? I mean, what do you think of a league where a month into the season, some people would say other leagues, it's decided before the season.
Yeah, right.
But there's 16 teams. Yeah, 16 teams that have a shot in the NFL 1 month in.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good relative to other sports. But And listen, this is, Niners fans rightfully like to complain about all the injuries, and they are as injured or more injured than any other team. But like, the injury situation is horrendous. And, we joke at the end of the season that it's really about which team stayed healthiest and they won. But this year it feels more acute than ever. Maybe that's just because we're living in it. Maybe it's because, every day there's football and every day there's a new big key injury. But I think the injury situation it almost feels like pitchers and Tommy John right now, just with everybody.
Who do you like? If I said to you, just basically, who do you like the way they look?
Yeah.
Because the team that I like the way they look is the team that played tonight, the Denver Broncos. I like the way the Denver Broncos look. Why? Because the Denver Broncos have the best coverage. Their pass coverage is so freaking tight. Yeah. So I was watching the quarterback from Folsom for Cincinnati, Jake Browning, tonight.
Yeah.
Doing his thing, and he couldn't do anything. He just absolutely could not do anything. And when he dropped back to pass, I love that over the ear camera they show you.
Yeah.
Because you really get a feel for coverage, at least somewhat. It's a little distorted, but you get a feel for the spacing. And nobody was open. Nobody was fucking open. And then you look at Denver on offense. I'm not a Bo Nix guy. I'm really not. But J.K. Dobbins, no matter how many injuries he continues to have, just always looks super fresh and explosive. And then now they've got R.J. Harvey.
Good player.
And both those guys, that's a two-headed backfield that's really good. And then you look at the receivers, you've got kind of an underrated group that's kind of grown up. Cortland Sutton's a big receiver. Mims is small but has speed. Troy Franklin has lots of speed. The former Oregon player.
Yeah. They had a nice screen to him today.
Troutman, who came over from the Saints, Peyton drafted him. Yeah. I think out of Dayton. I forget exactly, but he's not bad. Evan Engram is going to get better. Mm-hmm. They've got some, receivers. They've got some running backs. And then defensively, Benito's a star up front. Totally. They've got big rush up front. DJ Jones to stop the run. It will help if Greenlaw can get healthy. But, man, their secondary is just so great with the coverage. Yeah. I think Denver's big time. I think they're legit. I think they're going to kind of have their ebbs and flows because of the growth is through the quarterback of Bo Nix is going to come and go. But I think Denver is going to be a bear to get out of there at the end of the year.
You want my team?
Yeah, I mean, that's the team I like. I like Denver. I picked the Niners and the Chargers to go to the Super Bowl. Yeah. But the team that I really like right now is I like what I'm seeing from the Denver Broncos.
I think
is there a team that you like?
I do. My Super Bowl pick was Chiefs over Packers. I'm not willing to bounce off of that with Kansas City's bounce back here the last 2 weeks. Y'all are going to hate me for this. I think the Seahawks are the Broncos of the NFC right now. The defense is dominant. The defense is dominant, and they have Sam Darnold, who was an MVP caliber player last year for Minnesota, doing the same thing again. The offensive line is just light years better than it was last year, thanks to young Dieter Gray-Zabel at left guard and others. Jackson Smith and Jigba, outside of Puka Nacua, has been the best wide receiver in football this year. And
they got 6 sacks yesterday, by the way.
They're unbelievable. It's a Mike McDonald schemed up defense with all of the tools. And you saw this starting last year. They finally figured out the linebacker situation. They go get Ernest Jones. They now it's like, okay, they got something. Boye Mafe comes through at the end, and now
Tyrese Knight,
Lawrence, and it's like, oh, buddy, here we go.
You know what they're saying? They're saying that Josh Jobe has been so
the best
good
corner in the NFL this year.
That he's been so good that they're going to trade Reek Woolen.
They should, because Reek Woolen is the weak link. And if Reek Woolen is your weak link, you have a very strong
big
chain.
Corner.
You have a very strong chain. And that offense can move the ball. That is the Shanahan offense to a T. It's what we saw in Minnesota last year. They won 14 games with it. And I think they have more talent because of Torrey Horton, who, they're using Kupp like they use Nacua, where it's sort of a quasi tight end. They're getting Arroyo more involved in the offense as a pass-catching tight end.
He's big time.
He's big time. And they're using him in the proper capacity where it's like, you don't need to block. We'll have Cooper Kupp block because he's just that good at it on those insert blocks. And then Horton is coming through as now a very viable second option, in my opinion, to JSN, who's about as good as it gets. They have 3 great running backs. Halani, the kid out of Boise State, was like Jake's draft crush 2 years ago. He looks awesome when they give him reps. It's going to be about health. It's going to be about if Darnold can perform on the big stage. But if you like Bo Nix and you like, what's going on with the Broncos, and there's a million reasons to like what's going on there, you have to take the exact same bet with the Seattle Seahawks right now, especially in an NFC where the Packers looked like a dominant force for 2 weeks. That didn't go. The Lions look like crap in week 1, have looked better since, but do you really trust them in that regard, particularly that defense? You say, oh, well, the Eagles are 4-0. Okay, sure. Maybe they Chiefs it all the way. Maybe they just keep winning it, but they had 200 yards of offense in a win. Like, I'm sorry. Like, there's too many failures on that offense right now, and the defense is too banged up for me to buy in. Washington, I've never been a believer in, and it's a credit to them that they have the record that they do. I'm not buying the Niners. Didn't buy them at the start. Certainly not buying them now. The Rams, I think secondary is too wonky, and the injuries are going to start to pile up, and there's no depth behind those stars. They have the 49ers roster model. It's what the Niners base their roster model on. Minnesota's not there. The Bears aren't there. In a wide open NFC, I have a hard time not putting the Seattle Seahawks number 1 in the power ratings right now.
Wow.
Feel free to unsubscribe from my channel.
No, I would just say they've had a good September, but I wouldn't put them there until after October. They go Bucks, Jags, Texans, Commanders. I think we'll have a pretty good idea when we get to November. Yep. If Seattle is fool's gold or if they're legit. But yeah,
they won 10 games last year. They didn't make the playoffs, so they won 10 games last year because of a great defense down the stretch and an offense that failed them. The offense is cooking now. Sam Darnold's about as efficient and positive a quarterback as there is in the NFL right now. Man,
they're a JSN injury away from death. But yes,
probably that's probably.
But
most
JSN
teams
is
can
awesome,
say that.
Yeah, JSN's awesome though. He might be one of the most unstoppable receivers in pro football.
He's incredible.
That's gonna do it for us. Thanks to Pig in a Pickle. Thanks to Sleeper. Thanks to Habas Law, and thanks to our friends at Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles, as well as Claw Daddy Arcades. The links are in the description for all the sponsors. Shop the sponsors if you want to support the show. Hit like and subscribe on your way out the door. Dieter, promote anything you want that you got coming up this week. What do you got cooking?
Dieter and Hutch show tomorrow and Wednesday. KMBR, Larry's my lead-in. He loves doing it. Tomorrow and Wednesday and Friday. Columns on the Mercury News, at Dieter on Twitter. Do what you will with all that information.
Have a great night, everybody. Peace.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you gon' get